Hello, my name is Pauline Guevara, and I'm gonna tell you about Chapter 5 of Consumer Behavior, the motivation and emotion driving consumer behavior. So, what is motivation? Motivation is the inner reasons or driving forces behind human actions as consumers are driven to address real needs. For example, you have a friend that owns a food chain or a restaurant. As a friend, you are now motivated to eat in the restaurant because you know each other very well and you can have the high level of service you wanted to have. So when we talk about advertisements or commercials in particular, they are using before and after. In that way, it will drive you to buy because you saw the improvements that product can give you and you wanted to try it yourself. Human motivation are oriented around two key groups of behavior. The first behavior is homeostasis. Homeostasis is the state of equilibrium wherein the body naturally reacts in a way as to remain constant normal bloodstream, owing to the coordinated response of its parts to any situation or stimulus that would tend to disturb its normal condition or function. An example of homeostasis is the body regulating its internal temperature by shivering or sweating. The needs of your body depends on the weather or in your environment. If it is hot, you will probably look for a refreshment, or when your blood sugar falls, the psychological reaction is hunger. Hunger then motivates a consumer to eat something and restore the body to an acceptable state. When summertime hits, you have a hot weather. Certain products will be in demand. It might be umbrella, ice cream, air-conditioned swimsuits, or sunglasses rather. Vice versa, for a cold weather, you would probably sip a cup of coffee or a soup, wear a jacket, or go ice skating. The second group of behavior results from self-improvement motivation. These behaviors are aimed at changing one's current state to a level that is more ideal, not simply maintaining the current state of existence. Consider why one exercises. Beyond some level, consumers exercise not to maintain themselves, but to improve their health and well-being. And Nike is one of the well-known brands that have self-improvement motivation in their advertisement, because in their tagline, "Just do it," it's just made especially for athletes. Another example, before you have a dark skin with that given situation, you decided to use whitening soaps to have a better skin complexion and to improve yourself as well. Perhaps the most popular theory of human motivation in consumer and organizational behavior is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is motivational theory in psychology comprising a 5-tier model of human needs, often depicted as hierarchical levels within a pyramid. Maslow stated that people are motivated to achieve certain needs and that some needs take precedence over others. The following list displays the set of needs starting with the most basic need. First is physiological or basic survival, the food, drink, or shelter. According to Maslow's theory, consumers first seek value by satisfying the most basic needs. Safety and security, the need to be secure and protected. Once a person's physiological needs are relatively satisfied, their safety needs take precedence and dominate behavior. This level is more likely to be found in children as they generally have greater need to feel safe. The belongingness and love, the need to feel like a member of a family or community. This need is especially strong in childhood and it can override the need for safety as witnessed in children who cling to have abusive parents. Esteem, the need to be recognized as a person of worth. It presents the typical human desire to be accepted and valued by others. Utilitarian motivation bears much in common with the idea of maintaining behavior. It is a drive to acquire products that consumers can use to accomplish things. These are products that has purpose and more likely addressed to be a need. While hedonic motivation refers to the influence of a person's pleasure and pain receptors on their willingness to move toward a goal or away from a threat, it involves a drive to experience something personally gratifying. These are the products that has pleasure and more likely addressed to be a want. Here are some examples of hedonic and utilitarian motivation. In the first example for utilitarian motivation, lead to joining LinkedIn to network professionally, maybe for work reasons, while hedonic motivation lead to joining Facebook to have fun spreading the news, maybe for personal desire to socialize with friends. Next is consumer involvement. Involvement is synonymous with motivation in the sense that highly involved consumer is strongly motivated to expend effort and resources in consuming that particular thing. Consumer involvement represents the degree of personal relevance a consumer finds in pursuing value for a given category of consumption. Nature of consumer involvement. First, it is an inner urge that creates within an individual an interest or desire to hold a certain. Second, the length of time that the consumer remains to heightened state determines the level. When a consumer is buying products having complex features, then they spend time in getting themselves familiarized with the product, which shows high involvement. Such products include computers, refrigerator, washing machine, TVs, music system, cars, DVDs, and so on. There are two types of consumer involvement. First one is high involvement. Products are those that represents consumers' personality, status, and justifying lifestyle. For example, buying a home theater. The second type of consumer involvement is low involvement. Low involvement products that reflects routine purchase decision, for example, buying a candy or an ice cream. Here are some examples of products that a consumer usually have a high or low involvement when in the purchasing period. Let us now define moderating variable. The effect of moderating variable is characterized statistically as an interaction. A moderating variable is one that changes the nature of relationship between two other variables. For example, the amount of time and effort of a consumer spends choosing a pair of shoes. Logically, one might expect the larger selection, the greater time needed to make a decision. Involvement can mean different things to different people. Product involvement means the personal relevance of a particular product category. Here are some typical high and low product involvement. For high product involvement, it includes dresses, television, champagne, and bras. While for low product involvement, these are detergent, facial soap, toothpaste, and yogurt. Next is product enthusiasts. Product enthusiasts are consumers with very high involvement in some category. A relatively large segment of product enthusiasts can be found in fashion market. These consumers find great value in learning about fashion, shopping for fashion, and wearing fashionable clothes. Another example, if you are a product enthusiast of laptop and you are making a choice between Apple and Dell, in this case, you will choose a brand of Apple because you know the product very well and you will buy it even though it's expensive. Next is shopping involvement. What is shopping involvement? Shopping involvement represents the personal relevance of shopping activities. This relevance enhances personal shopping value. From utilitarian value perspective, highly involved shoppers are more likely to process information about deals and are more likely to react in price reduction and limited offers that create better deals. Next is situational involvement. Situational involvement often comes about when consumers are shopping for something with relatively low involvement but a relatively high price. This is the state of arousal directed towards attaching relevance to a person, object, situation for a short term. It is also represent the temporary involvement as associated with some imminent purchase situation. As an effective state, it creates a level of involvement when a person thinks about a particular person, object, or situation. It is specific to a situation and it's thus temporary in nature. It could vary from low to high depending upon situation factors. For example, a middle-aged woman goes to electronics mall and visits the various stores that sell computers and laptops. As she collects information on the product features, prices, and finally takes the help of her middle-aged neighbor to reach a final decision. Her involvement with the purchase activity would be regarded as a situational involvement. While enduring involvement is not temporary, but rather represents a continuing interest in some product or activity, when the level of involvement towards the product or service category extends over a period of time across situation, it is referred to as enduring involvement. The person shows a high level of interest in the product category and spends time collecting and processing information. For example, when a person or a parent desires to buy a laptop for his son to be gifted to him when he goes to college, which would be 3 years later. When the parent or the father plans well in advance, tries to collect information through advertisements, brochures, trade journals, visit to dealers, and word of mouth from peers and colleagues. Within this period, he gets involved with the product category and after 3 years is in a position to take a decision based on facts that he has. Next is emotional involvement. It represents how emotional a consumer gets during some specific consumption activity. This is the type of deep personal interest that evokes strongly felt feelings simply from the thoughts of behavior associated with some object or activity. It is easier for some brands to foster emotional involvement than it is for others by nature of the types of products offered. For example, some consumers place a high value on having a sense of freedom. For other brands, creating an emotional connection requires some creativity. Apple did it by making audience of creative computer users like a special group or family separate from those who use computers for spreadsheets and other. Next is emotion, a specific psychobiological reaction to human appraisal. Thus, when a consumer receives a bad service in a restaurant, he or she appraises the situation and then reacts emotionally. When a consumer contemplating vacation, he or she appraises different size and thinks about a total vacation experience. Next is psychobiological. What is psychobiological? Psychobiological is a response involving both psychological and physical human responses. Marketing success is determined by emotion because actions bring value to a consumer to the extent that desirable emotional states can be created. Assume alternative scenarios means that at some point we must decide whether the variation in the anger process fall within a single emotion family representing a common psychobiological process or should be distinguished as a separate emotion. Next is visceral responses. What is visceral responses? Visceral responses meaning that certain feeling states are tied to behavior in a very direct way. Emotions are extremely important to consumer behavior and marketing because consumers react most immediately to their. For example, For the given situation, a consumer buys a book that she waited to be available for a month. The emotion felt by the consumer is happy and excited because she can finally read the book. Behavioral response of the consumer would be genuine smile, including turned up cheeks and eyebrows. Next would be cognitive appraisal theory. Cognitive appraisal theory represents an increasingly popular school of thought. It describes how specific type of thoughts can serve as a basis for specific emotions. There are 4 types of cognitive appraisal: the anticipation appraisal, agency appraisals, equity appraisal, and outcome appraisal. First one is the anticipation appraisals. It focuses on the future that can elicit emotion like hopefulness or anxiety. For example, consumer waits while doctor examines X-ray. The consumer worries for the result of the X-ray. Next, agency appraisals. It reviews responsibilities for events that can evoke gratefulness, frustration, guilt, or sadness. For example, consumer sees a waiter sneeze near a food preparation area. The emotion of the consumer would be disgust and frustration. Next would be equity appraisal. It considers how fair some event is and can evoke emotion like warmth or anger. For example, consumer sees one customer receive faster and better service than he or she receives. The emotion of the consumer is anger. Last is outcome appraisal. It considers how something turned out relative to one's goal and can evoke emotions like joyfulness, satisfaction, sadness, or pride. For example, consumer shows up at an important party inappropriately dressed. The emotion of the consumer would be embarrassment. That would be our last topic for this video. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you for watching.